Have you ever told yourself that you're not good enough, not lucky enough, not worthy of good things? There are days when you see others succeed and wonder why you're still stuck in the same place. There are times when you make mistakes and immediately conclude that you're incompetent. Gradually, these thoughts are no longer fleeting but become a familiar voice in your head. And sadly, often the one who belittles us isn't others, but the negative thoughts we create ourselves. We can overcome external criticism, but it's much harder to escape self-criticism. When you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, you start believing it. That belief affects how you act, how you seize opportunities, and how you perceive your own worth. You might reject opportunities even before anyone else judges you. You might hesitate to try because the fear of failure confirms your inner anxieties. In this video, we'll revisit the power of thought. Thoughts can be invisible barriers, but they can also be powerful motivators. When you change the way you talk to yourself, you change the way you live. When you learn to protect your self-worth from negative beliefs, you begin to build confidence from within. Protecting your self-worth doesn't mean being arrogant or denying your weaknesses. It's about viewing yourself fairly. You may not be perfect, but you're striving. You may not have achieved everything you wanted, but that doesn't make you worthless. Everyone has their own journey and their own pace. It's important to realize that the voice in your head can be adjusted. When you hear the thought that you're not good enough, ask yourself where the proof is. When you think you're unworthy, remember the times you've tried and overcome difficulties. Confidence doesn't come from never making mistakes, but from daring to learn from them. The journey of changing your mindset doesn't happen in a day, but by simply starting to pay attention and making small adjustments, you're getting closer to a stronger version of yourself. Watch until the end and share your thoughts in the comments. Who knows? Your story might help someone realize they deserve good things in life too. Negative thoughts arise naturally. When faced with failure or rejection, the mind automatically assigns negative labels to itself. We might tell ourselves that we are inadequate, incompetent, or worthless. These judgments appear so quickly that we assume they are self-evident truths. But in reality, it's just the mind's familiar reaction to hurt. Humans tend to remember negative experiences more strongly than positive ones. When things don't go as expected, the brain tries to find the cause to protect us from repeating the mistake. However, in the process, the mind sometimes oversimplifies the problem by blaming itself. Instead of looking at the circumstances, we label ourselves. Instead of saying that this time wasn't successful, we say that we are the failure. A single rejection at work can lead to the feeling that you're not good enough. A broken relationship can make you believe you don't deserve to be loved. These labels don't just stop at a specific event, but spread to many other areas of life. Gradually, you begin to see yourself through a negative lens. It's worth noting that these thoughts often occur automatically. We don't actively choose to think negatively about ourselves, yet they still appear. Because of this automaticity, many people don't realize they're being caught in a negative cycle. When a negative thought arises, it triggers feelings of sadness or disappointment. These feelings, in turn, reinforce the belief that the thought is true. However, not every thought reflects the truth. Thoughts are simply how we interpret events. Two people may experience the same failure, but have completely different perspectives. One sees it as a lesson, the other as evidence of incompetence. The difference lies in the interpretation, not in the event itself. When we realize that negative thinking is just a temporary reaction, we can begin to detach ourselves from it. Instead of identifying ourselves with the negative label, we learn to observe thoughts as a flow. We might ask ourselves if we are generalizing too much. Is one mistake enough to define our entire being? Failure is a natural part of the learning process. No one grows without stumbling, but if after each setback we label ourselves negatively, we will gradually lose motivation. The fear of being validated as incompetent makes us avoid new challenges. From there, we limit our potential for growth. Rejection is similar. Being rejected doesn't mean you're worthless. It might just be a mismatch at the moment. But when the mind automatically interprets it negatively, it's easy to believe you're lacking something fundamental. If this belief persists, it can damage self-esteem. One way to deal with negative thinking is to change your inner language. So when you fail, instead of saying you're useless, you can say you just didn't succeed this time. This small difference in wording makes a big difference in how you feel. The phrase "not successful" opens the possibility of improvement, while useless closes all hope. Furthermore, acknowledging small achievements helps balance perspective. When the mind focuses too much on mistakes, we can proactively remind ourselves of what we have accomplished. This isn't about self-delusion, but about gaining a more holistic view of ourselves. Humans are not just made up of flaws. The surrounding environment also influences the frequency and intensity of negative thoughts. If we are frequently exposed to criticism or comparisons, we are more likely to develop negative self-beliefs. Conversely, when we are encouraged and respected, we have a stronger foundation for building self-confidence. Choosing the right environment is a way to protect the mind. Most importantly, understand that negative thoughts are not enemies to be completely eliminated. They're simply signals that we are hurting or anxious. Instead of trying to banish them, we can listen to and understand what they reflect. When understood, they gradually lose their controlling power. The journey of change doesn't happen overnight. Thinking habits formed over years require time to adjust. You might still blame yourself for mistakes today, but if you start identifying and adjusting them little by little, you're moving in a positive direction. Every time you choose to view failure as a lesson instead of a label, you are rebuilding your confidence. Every time you remind yourself that rejection doesn't define your self-worth, you are strengthening your self-esteem. Gradually, the negative voice will no longer dominate as strongly as before. Negative thoughts arise naturally, but you're not obligated to believe them all. You have the right to choose how you interpret your experiences. When you understand that thoughts are just thoughts, not absolute truths, you'll feel more at ease. And from that relief, you can move forward with greater faith and steadfastness on your journey. Negative thoughts arise naturally. When faced with failure or rejection, the mind automatically assigns negative labels to itself. Just one unexpected outcome can instantly lead to feelings of inadequacy, bad luck, or incompetence. These thoughts come so quickly that we don't even realize we've just hurt ourselves. When a plan fails, instead of considering objective factors, we often blame everything on ourselves. We say we're not good enough, we're not suitable, we have no future. When rejected in work or relationships, we easily believe we're not good enough. The mind seems to seek a simple explanation for the pain, and the quickest way is to label ourselves negatively. This mechanism actually stems from a self-preservation instinct. The brain constantly tries to find the cause to avoid repeating the trauma. But in the process, it may choose the shortest path, which is to blame oneself. This gives us a feeling of control, because if the fault lies with us, then simply changing ourselves is enough. However, this extreme interpretation erodes self-esteem. A failure doesn't mean we're a failure. A single rejection doesn't prove we're worthless. But when individual events are generalized into a judgment of our entire being, we begin to see ourselves through a distorted lens. From there, each new challenge becomes a threat to our self-image. Negative labels are powerful because they are repetitive. The first time, it might only bring fleeting sadness. But if every time we face difficulties, we tell ourselves we are useless, that statement gradually becomes a belief. That belief influences our behavior. We hesitate to try because we fear confirming what we already believe. We don't dare set high goals because we think we don't deserve them. Comparison also contributes to fostering negative thinking. When we see others succeed, we easily forget that they also experienced failure. We only see the final result and conclude that we are inferior. The mind ignores our own silent efforts and focuses only on weaknesses. It's important to recognize that thoughts don't always reflect the truth. Thoughts are how we interpret events based on our current experiences and emotions. If we are tired or hurt, we are more likely to interpret things negatively. The same event, when in a better mental state, can be seen completely differently. To break free from this cycle, the first step is identification. When a negative thought arises, stop and ask yourself whether it's an absolute truth or just a fleeting emotion. Questioning helps create distance between yourself and the thought. You no longer identify with that label. Another approach is to change the way you talk to yourself. Instead of saying you failed, say you didn't succeed this time. Instead of saying you're not good enough, say you're in the process of learning. Small adjustments in language can create big changes in your emotions and motivation. Acknowledging progress is also a way to protect the mind. When we fail, we often forget what we accomplished before. Looking back on the journey gives us a more comprehensive perspective. We are not just a single moment of error. We are a synthesis of many experiences, both successes and failures. Furthermore, sharing with a trusted person can help calm negative thoughts. When we speak out, we have the opportunity to hear a different perspective. Outsiders can see strengths that we might be overlooking. This connection helps us avoid getting stuck in a self-critical inner world. It's also important to understand that failure and rejection are an inevitable part of life. No one's journey is entirely smooth sailing. Successful people aren't those who have never been rejected, but rather those who don't let rejection define them. They see it as feedback for adjustment, not a judgment on their personal value. Changing your thinking habits takes time. Negative beliefs that have formed over the years won't disappear immediately. You may still blame yourself sometimes. But each time you recognize and adjust your thinking, you are gradually building a stronger foundation for self-esteem. Negative thoughts arise naturally, but you don't have to accept them as truth. You can learn to observe, adjust, and replace them with more realistic and positive thoughts. When you stop labeling yourself after every failure, you open up space for growth. Ultimately, what matters isn't whether you ever fail or are rejected. What matters is how you choose to view those experiences. When you understand that your self-worth isn't determined by a few events, you'll be more confident to keep moving forward. And it is this perseverance that truly forms the foundation for lasting success and happiness. Repeated thoughts become beliefs. Long-held, misguided beliefs limit our potential. Initially, a thought is just a fleeting reaction to an event. But when it occurs frequently enough, the mind begins to accept it as truth. Once it becomes a belief, it subtly controls how we perceive ourselves, how we act, and even the direction of our lives. Imagine someone who failed an important exam. At first, they're just sad and disappointed. But if they constantly tell themselves that they're not smart, that they lack academic ability, that thought will gradually become ingrained. At some point, they'll stop saying I didn't do well on the exam and start saying I'm incompetent. The transformation from an event to a label is the formation of limiting beliefs. Beliefs are incredibly powerful because they shape behavior. If you believe you're not good at communicating, you'll be hesitant to participate in conversations. With little practice, your skills don't improve, and that reinforces your initial belief. A vicious cycle forms. Thoughts create actions, actions create results, and results reinforce thoughts. It's worth noting that many limiting beliefs don't stem from objective facts, but from how we interpret our experiences. Perhaps you were once ridiculed for speaking in class. From that, you believe your speech is unengaging, but maybe that day you were simply unprepared or too nervous. One imperfect moment isn't enough to define your entire potential. However, if negative thinking is repeated, it can become a deeply ingrained belief. Long-held, misguided beliefs create invisible limitations for ourselves. We hesitate to apply for better jobs because we think we're not good enough. We don't dare start a new project for fear of failure. We don't dare express our feelings because we believe we're not worthy. Missed opportunities aren't due to a lack of ability, but a lack of belief in our ability. In reality, human capabilities are more flexible than we imagine. Skills can be honed, knowledge can be learned, confidence can be built. But if we hold the belief that we cannot change, we will never try. False beliefs become a greater obstacle than any external difficulty. A clear example is when someone believes they lack business acumen. They might reject a collaboration opportunity, even if they have a good idea. Meanwhile, someone with the same level of experience, but who believes they can learn, will be willing to give it a try. The difference lies not in their starting point, but in their belief. Beliefs are formed through experiences, environment, and the words we hear from a young age. If we are frequently compared to others or criticized, we are more likely to develop negative self-beliefs. However, it is important to understand that beliefs are not fixed. They can be examined and changed. The first step to breaking down limiting beliefs is to identify them. Ask yourself what you believe about yourself. Do you believe you're not smart enough? Do you believe you lack leadership qualities? By naming the belief, you begin to detach yourself from it. You realize it's just a thought repeated many times, not an absolute truth. Next, look for evidence to the contrary. It's true that you've never done anything good. It's true that you've never been recognized. When you look back fairly, you'll find many moments that prove your capabilities. This evidence helps to shake old beliefs. Changing beliefs requires patience. You can't erase a belief formed over years in just a few days. But each time you act against a limiting belief, you're creating a new experience. Each positive experience is a building block for a new belief. Furthermore, the environment also plays a crucial role. When you are in an environment that encourages learning and experimentation, you are more likely to develop positive beliefs. When given opportunities and trusted, you begin to believe in yourself. Conversely, a prejudiced environment can reinforce false beliefs. The good news is that the brain is adaptable. When you repeat positive and realistic thoughts, they can also become beliefs. If you remind yourself every day that you are making progress, that mistakes are lessons, you will gradually come to believe it. New beliefs will replace old ones. A person's life is largely guided by what they believe about themselves. If you believe you can learn and grow, you will open yourself to opportunities. If you believe you will always fail, you will narrow your world. The difference lies in your internal belief system. Repeated thoughts become beliefs. Therefore, be mindful of what you frequently say to yourself. Each self-affirmation is a seed. If you sow negative seeds, you will reap self-doubt and hesitation. If you sow positive and realistic seeds, you will cultivate confidence and motivation. Long-held, misguided beliefs limit our potential, but positive beliefs can expand that potential. When you begin to believe you can improve, you've taken a crucial step. Now, no one is perfect, but everyone has the potential to grow. Choose to repeat uplifting thoughts instead of limiting ones. Because ultimately, the life you experience will reflect what you believe about yourself. Thomas Edison's story is often cited as a powerful example of the strength of self-belief. As a child, he was judged to be less intelligent and unsuitable for a traditional learning environment. Some records recount that teachers considered him slow-witted and difficult to learn. If Edison had fully believed those negative assessments at the time, perhaps history would have taken a different turn. Imagine a young boy hearing adults tell him he's not smart enough. If he accepted that as an unchangeable truth, he might stop trying. He might tell himself that all effort is futile. But Edison didn't let those initial judgments define his life. Instead of accepting the label of incompetence, he nurtured curiosity and a spirit of experimentation. What made Edison different wasn't that he never failed. On the contrary, he was famous for thousands of unsuccessful experiments before creating the perfect electric light bulb. When asked about those failures, he said he hadn't failed, but had simply found ways that weren't working. This perspective reflected a strong belief that every effort had value. If Edison had believed he was unintelligent, perhaps each unsuccessful experiment would have served as evidence reinforcing that negative belief. He might have stopped after a few dozen failures and told himself he wasn't capable enough. But instead of labeling himself, he viewed failure as a natural part of the creative process. It was this perseverance that led to many important inventions for humanity. This story illustrates an important truth. Other people's opinions don't necessarily reflect our true potential. Sometimes others judge based on their own stereotypes or expectations. If we accept every negative comment without filtering, we may be setting limits for ourselves. Edison not only invented the electric light bulb, but also contributed to many other fields, such as the phonograph and the electrical distribution system. These achievements didn't come from being recognized from the start, but from his belief in his own abilities and his continued experimentation. That belief helped him overcome doubt and obstacles. From Edison's story, we can learn that repetitive thinking shapes beliefs. If we constantly hear and believe that we are not good enough, we will act according to that belief. But if we choose to believe that we can learn and improve, we will find ways to improve. Beliefs not only influence emotions, but also guide actions. Many of us have been labeled in the past. Perhaps we were told we were slow, shy, or untalented. Those words, repeated often enough, become our inner voice. But Edison's story reminds us that a label cannot define a whole person. Potential is often revealed when we dare to try and dare to make mistakes. More importantly, Edison showed that failure is not the end, but a stepping stone. When we change how we interpret failure, we change our experience. Instead of seeing it as evidence of incompetence, we can view it as data for improvement. That perspective helps us keep moving forward. If Edison had stopped because he believed his initial assessment, perhaps many important inventions would not have come along at the right time. This shows that the world can lose a great deal if everyone accepts limiting beliefs about themselves, and we don't dare to believe in our own abilities. We not only limit our personal lives, but also miss opportunities to contribute to the community. This story isn't meant to compare everyone to a great inventor, but rather to remind us that potential is always greater than initial labels. You may not be Edison, but you have unique abilities waiting to be discovered. If you believe you can learn and grow, you will open more doors. Self-belief doesn't mean denying the difficulties. Edison still faced countless challenges, but he didn't let those challenges become evidence of his incompetence. He continued to experiment, adjust, and learn. That perseverance stemmed from his belief that his efforts were meaningful. Whenever you face negative feedback, remember that it's just one perspective. You have the right to choose what you believe. If you choose to believe in your potential for growth, you're laying the foundation for the future. If you choose to believe in limiting labels, you'll narrow your own path. The story of Thomas Edison is proof that belief can change destiny. A child once considered unintelligent became one of the most influential inventors. What made the difference wasn't a perfect starting point, but the decision not to let others define his worth. So, when you hear that voice in your head saying you're not good enough, ask yourself if it's true or just an old label. Remember that potential isn't always immediately apparent. Like Edison, you may need many trials and errors before finding the right path. But if you don't give up on believing in yourself, you'll always have a chance to create something meaningful for your life and for the world around you. Comparing ourselves to others is a very natural human reaction. From a young age, we are accustomed to rankings, scores, and praise and criticism based on comparison. Gradually, looking at others to measure our own worth becomes a habit. But this very habit is one of the deep-seated sources of low self-esteem. When making comparisons, we often choose those who are better, more successful, or have better circumstances as benchmarks. We see their achievements, but not the years of quiet effort they put in. We see their confidence, but not the times they doubted themselves. Such comparisons are therefore flawed, and the result is almost always a feeling of inferiority. Everyone has a different starting point. Some grow up in environments with ample learning opportunities, support, and clear guidance. Others have to fend for themselves from an early age, balancing work and studies while juggling numerous responsibilities. When we place these two individuals at the same finish line and ask who achieved more, we are ignoring their backgrounds. Such a comparison is unfair and fails to accurately reflect the value of each individual. Everyone's journey is different. Some find their passion very early and persistently pursue it. Others have to try many jobs and experience many failures before gradually understanding what they want. Some achieve success in their 20s, while others only truly shine in middle age. If we use someone else's current situation as a benchmark for ourselves, we will easily fall into a feeling of being left behind and pressured. Self-doubt often begins with questions like, why can't I be like them? Or why can they do it and I can't? Repeatedly asking these questions breeds a belief that one is inferior. Once this belief forms, we begin to withdraw. We fear new challenges for fear of falling behind again. We fear expressing ourselves for fear of being judged. This very withdrawal causes us to miss opportunities for growth. In the age of social media, comparison has become even more intense. We see images of success, travel, and achievements shared constantly. But what we see is only the tip of the iceberg. Few people share their failures, frustrating days, or moments of confusion. When we only see the bright side of others, it's easy to believe that their lives are perfect, while ours are not. Comparison can also make us forget our own strengths. Everyone has unique abilities. Some are good at analysis, others at communication. Some are creative, others are patient. But when we focus too much on other people's strengths, we lose sight of our own value. We begin to underestimate what we can do, simply because it's different from what others have. In reality, no two people have the same blueprint for life. Family circumstances, economic conditions, educational opportunities, and life experiences all contribute to shaping who we are today. Understanding this will help us be less critical of ourselves. Instead of asking why we haven't achieved what others have, we can ask ourselves if we have improved compared to who we were yesterday. A healthier way to look at yourself is to compare yourself to your past self. Are you more patient today? Do you understand yourself better? Do you dare to try new things? These questions help you focus on inner growth rather than external achievements. When you realize you're improving, even just a little, self-confidence will gradually build. Comparison can easily create pressure to meet other people's standards. We might choose a job simply because we see many people succeeding in that field. We might pursue a lifestyle that doesn't truly suit us. But living according to others' standards can easily lead to fatigue and disorientation. Success that doesn't align with personal values won't bring lasting happiness. Conversely, when we respect our own journey, we learn patience. Our path may be longer and more winding, but every experience brings a lesson. The challenges we overcome will strengthen our character, and the failures we face will help us understand ourselves better. That journey, though unique, still holds its own special meaning. It's important to recognize that a person's value lies not solely in their achievements. Kindness, honesty, perseverance, and the ability to learn are all valuable qualities. When we only use external success as a measure, we overlook many deeper aspects of a person. And when we judge ourselves only by achievements, we easily fall into self-doubt whenever we fail to reach our goals. Instead of comparing ourselves to others and blaming ourselves, we can observe others to learn. If someone does well, we can find out what they did and how they trained. We are inspired instead of using differences as a reason to feel discouraged. This approach helps us grow without losing self-esteem. Everyone has their own pace. Some progress quickly, others slowly, but persistently. The important thing isn't speed, but whether we keep moving forward. When we accept that we are at a certain stage of our journey, we feel less pressure to be like others. Focus on the next step instead of looking to the sides. Self-confidence doesn't come from being better than others, but from understanding and accepting yourself. When you know your strengths and areas for improvement, you can create a suitable development plan. You're no longer caught in an invisible race. You no longer feel inferior simply because others are in a different position. Comparing yourself to others is a root of low self-esteem when you forget the differences in your starting points and journeys. But if you change your perspective, you'll see that each person is a unique story. Your story has its own chapters, its own challenges, and its own victories. You don't need to be like anyone else to be valuable. When you stop making negative comparisons, you free up a lot of energy. That energy can be used for learning, self-improvement, and building your dreams. Instead of wasting time blaming yourself, you can invest in genuine growth. And when you look back, you'll see you've come a long way. Remember that success doesn't follow a single formula. Neither does happiness. You have the right to define your own path. When you respect your starting point and your journey, you will gradually build solid self-confidence. And then, you won't need to compare yourself to others to know your worth, because you will understand that value has always existed within you. Social media has become an integral part of modern life. Every day we scroll through hundreds of images, stories, achievements, and dazzling moments of others. We see luxurious trips, successful projects, perfect physiques, and admirable milestones. But what we often fail to see are the silent efforts behind those pictures. Social media tends to showcase the most prominent aspects of a person's life. Everyone wants to share positive things and proud achievements. Few people post about tiring days, failures, or moments of despair. Therefore, when looking at that information stream, it's easy to feel that others are always doing well and smoothly. While we are struggling and lagging behind, comparison begins to form from there. We see the success of others and wonder why we haven't achieved the same. We see them in high positions at work, with stable lives and many good relationships. But we forget that behind those achievements may be years of studying. Many sleepless nights, many failures, and persistent efforts to get back up. An entrepreneur might share stories about their thriving company, but rarely mention near bankruptcy moments. A celebrity might project a confident image to the public, but may have once experienced periods of disorientation and self-doubt. A person with a fit physique may have maintained a disciplined exercise and diet regimen for years. These efforts often happen quietly and don't make headlines. When we only see the results and not the process, we easily underestimate the value of perseverance. We think that success comes quickly and easily. This creates invisible pressure, making us feel like we're falling behind. We forget that everyone develops at a different pace and has different circumstances. Social media also makes us focus on the moment instead of the journey. A diploma is the result of years of study. A successful product launch is the culmination of hundreds of hours of preparation. An impressive speech may be the fruit of countless hours of practice. But when it's all condensed into a single photo or a short video, we easily forget the depth of the process. In reality, no one's life is as perfect as what's selectively posted online. Everyone has their own struggles, their own pressures, their own days of discouragement when they don't want to try. But because those things aren't appealing or don't fit their personal image, they're usually not shared widely. When we don't see the dark side, we easily believe it doesn't exist. Consuming too much of this kind of content can have a negative impact on one's mental health. We begin to doubt our own worth, feel our achievements are insignificant compared to others. We may overlook progress we've made simply because it doesn't stand out online. This gradually diminishes self-confidence and motivation. To avoid falling into the trap of comparison, we need to remind ourselves that social media is only a selective part of reality. It's like a collection of the best moments, not the whole story. Understanding this will reduce the pressure to chase after external appearances. Instead of comparing ourselves to others, we can shift to a learning attitude. If we see someone succeed, we can learn about their journey, can read their more in-depth stories, listen to their behind-the-scenes accounts, and learn how they overcame difficulties. By seeing the whole process, we will understand that success is not a miracle, but the result of persistent effort. We also need to look back at our own journey. You may not have reached your desired position, but you have progressed further from your starting point. You may not have achieved great things, but you have learned many important skills and lessons. Those small steps forward are valuable, even if they are not widely publicized. Another way to protect your mental health is to limit your social media time and selectively choose positive content. Instead of following accounts that make you feel stressed, you can seek out authentic, inspiring content where people share both successes and failures. This helps you gain a more balanced perspective. More importantly, remember that life isn't a competition to see who achieves the most in the shortest amount of time. Everyone has their own journey with their own goals. When you focus on your values and goals, you'll be less swayed by external appearances. Quiet effort is often unassuming, but it's what builds a solid foundation. Hard study, consistent practice, and small projects completed step by step all contribute to long-term success. If you only look at others' results and forget to invest in your own process, you'll easily become discouraged. Allow yourself to progress in your own way. Appreciate the efforts you are making, even if no one sees them yet. One day, the results will reflect that process. And when you achieve your own success, you will understand that behind every successful photograph is a long journey. Social media isn't inherently bad, but how we use and interpret it is what matters. If we see it as a source of inspiration and learning, we will grow. If we see it as a measure of our self-worth, we easily fall into low self-esteem. The choice lies in how we perceive it. Finally, remember that true success isn't just about what's publicly displayed. It's about inner growth, the ability to overcome challenges, and not giving up until you achieve your goals. These things may not appear on the news feed, but they are the foundation for a solid life. The next time you scroll through social media and see a resounding success, remind yourself that behind it lies a great deal of silent effort. And when you look back at yourself, believe that your quiet efforts today are also building towards your success tomorrow. J.K. Rowling's story is a profound testament to the power of self-belief amidst rejection. Before becoming the author of the globally renowned Harry Potter series, she went through a difficult period. At one point, she was a single mother living on social welfare, writing manuscripts in cafes while her daughter slept. Her dream didn't begin with glamour, but with quiet, typed pages. When Rowling finished the first draft of the Boy Wizard story, she sent it to many publishers hoping for acceptance. But the response she received was mostly rejection. It's not just once, but many times. There were cold letters stating that the story was unsuitable, lacked commercial potential, or simply wasn't compelling enough. Each rejection could have been a blow to her faith. Try putting yourself in her shoes at that time. Single mother, with limited finances, carrying a thick manuscript and a big dream. Every time a rejection envelope was opened, hope faced the risk of shattering. If Rowling had believed then that the rejections were proof of her incompetence, perhaps she would have stopped. Perhaps the manuscript would have been shelved and never published. But instead of seeing the rejections as confirmation that she wasn't good enough, she continued submitting her manuscript. Eventually, a small publisher accepted her first book. From that humble beginning, the story of Harry, Hermione, and Ron gradually touched the hearts of millions of readers around the world. The series not only sold hundreds of millions of copies, but was also adapted into a successful film series, creating a literary icon of its time. What's worth reflecting on isn't just the ultimate success, but the preceding period. Rejections aren't the end. They're part of the journey. Rowling had let negative labels define her. The world might not have had a story that has inspired generations of children and adults. That story reminds us that rejection doesn't equate to incompetence. Often rejection reflects a mismatch at a particular time, rather than the true value of the idea or the person. A work might not fit the direction of one publisher, but it could be a treasure in the eyes of another. If we tie our self-worth to every negative feedback, we'll easily give up. Self-belief doesn't mean blind faith. Rowling didn't just sit and wait for luck. She revised and refined her manuscript and continued to seek opportunities. Belief goes hand in hand with persistent action. It is this combination that creates the turning point. Success doesn't come from one attempt, but from many times of not giving up. In life, everyone experiences rejection. It could be a job not accepted, a project not approved, an idea dismissed. These moments can easily lead to self-doubt. We might question our own abilities. But Rowling's story shows that a single rejection doesn't determine the entire future. What matters is how we interpret the experience. If we view rejection as feedback for improvement, we will keep moving forward. If we view it as a final judgment on our abilities, we will stop. The difference lies in belief. That belief isn't always easy to maintain, especially in difficult circumstances. But it is precisely in those times that belief is most valuable. The Harry Potter series is more than just a fantasy story. It's about friendship, courage, and the choice between what's right and what's easy. Perhaps the author's own journey is infused into every page. Someone who has faced difficulties and rejection can truly understand the value of perseverance and hope. If Rowling had accepted the idea that she was incompetent, perhaps she would have chosen a safer, less risky path. But when we give up on our dreams simply because we fear rejection, we close the door to great possibilities. Every unfulfilled idea is an unexplored opportunity. Every forgotten dream is a part of untapped potential. This story also reminds us that success often comes after many failures. What we see today is the result of a long process. When reading a famous book, we rarely think about the initial rejection letters. When seeing a successful author, we easily forget the period when they were not yet recognized. But it is precisely that period that forged their character. For each person, it might not be about writing a series of books, but rather pursuing a project, a personal dream. Perhaps you're learning a new skill and aren't yet proficient. Maybe you're starting a business and facing difficulties. These challenges aren't proof that you're incapable. They're simply part of the journey of growth. Believing in yourself doesn't guarantee that every door will open immediately, but it helps you keep knocking. If you don't believe you deserve opportunities, you'll stop searching. And when you stop searching, real opportunities are unlikely to appear. J.K. Rowling's story is a reminder that your value isn't determined by the number of rejections you receive. It's determined by whether you continue to believe in what you do. When you dare to persevere, you're giving yourself a chance to change the outcome. The world today knows Harry Potter as a literary icon, but behind that icon is a woman who once sat quietly writing in a cafe, who opened rejection letters, and who faced skepticism. It was precisely because she refused to let those rejections define her that the story had the chance to be told. So, when you face rejection, remember that it's not a sentence for the future. It might just be a chapter in your story. If you continue writing the next chapter with faith and effort, you never know what awaits you. And who knows, your perseverance today might create an inspiring story for others tomorrow. Negative self-talk is more destructive than we realize. Often we think it's just a casual remark, a joke for fun, but the brain interprets it very differently. The brain doesn't distinguish between a joke and a serious statement. When a message is repeated many times, Regardless of the circumstances, it gradually becomes a belief. There are familiar phrases we often use for ourselves, such as "I'm useless, I'm so incompetent, I can never do anything right." Initially, it might just be an immediate reaction when we make a mistake. But if these phrases occur frequently, the brain will register them as part of our self-image. Gradually, we begin to behave in accordance with what we attribute to ourselves. Neuroscience shows that the brain is highly flexible. Neural connections are strengthened through repetition. When we constantly tell ourselves negative things, we are creating negative thought pathways in the brain. The more we repeat them, the easier those pathways become. And whenever we encounter difficulties, the mind automatically returns to those familiar patterns. It's worth noting that the brain doesn't have an automatic mechanism to judge whether a statement is a joke or serious. If you frequently say, "I'm so stupid," even for a small mistake, your brain still registers the message that you're unintelligent. When this message is repeated, it gradually affects your self-confidence, how you perceive your abilities, and how you face challenges. Negative self-talk can also trigger a stress response. When we harshly criticize ourselves, our bodies may react as if they are facing a threat. Heart rate increases, muscles tense, and the mind becomes defensive. If this happens frequently, it can affect both mental and physical health. We live in a constant state of self-criticism without realizing it. Many people have a habit of putting themselves down to avoid criticism from others. They think that if they speak up about negative things first, others won't hurt them anymore. But this strategy inadvertently reinforces their negative self-beliefs. Instead of protecting themselves, they are weakening their intrinsic value. Inner voice has a profound impact because it is constant and private. We may not be aware of what we are thinking, but the stream of thoughts continues to flow steadily. If the stream of thoughts is primarily critical and self-deprecating, we will feel tired and unmotivated. Conversely, if we learn to regulate and speak to ourselves with empathy, our mood and performance can change dramatically. This doesn't mean we should always praise ourselves blindly. Honesty about mistakes is necessary for growth. But the difference lies in the wording. Instead of saying "I'm terrible," we can say, "I made a mistake, and I can learn from it." The second way of saying it doesn't deny flaws, but it doesn't attack a person's worth either. Children who grow up in environments where they are constantly criticized tend to carry that critical voice into adulthood. They may continue to speak to themselves in the same harsh tone they once heard from others. Without recognition and change, this cycle can last for years. A simple experiment is to observe your thoughts throughout the day. Every time you make a mistake or encounter a difficulty, pay attention to what you say to yourself. If those words are things you would never say to a close friend, perhaps it's time to change how you treat yourself. The brain responds positively to repeated affirmations. When we proactively remind ourselves that we can learn, we are improving, and we deserve respect. These messages also create new neural pathways. They may feel forced at first, but over time, they become more natural. Consistency is key. A few random words of encouragement can hardly compensate for years of self-criticism. But if we take the time each day to adjust our inner voice, the positive impact will accumulate. We begin to see ourselves more fairly. We no longer exaggerate our mistakes or view them as evidence of incompetence. Negative speech also influences behavior. If you believe you're not good at communicating, you might avoid social situations. This avoidance reduces your opportunities to improve your skills, thereby reinforcing your initial belief. A vicious cycle forms between thought and action. Only by changing the internal message can we change our external behavior. Changing your inner voice requires patience. First, you need to identify familiar negative statements. Then, try to question whether they are entirely true. Is there any evidence that you have done well? Is there any situation that proves you are capable? By seeking positive evidence, you are helping your brain build a more balanced perspective. Self-compassion is a crucial skill. Instead of treating yourself like an enemy, you can learn to talk to yourself like a friend. When you make a mistake, try telling yourself that everyone makes mistakes and that it doesn't define who you are. This way of speaking helps reduce stress and opens up opportunities for improvement. The brain may not clearly distinguish between jokes and serious statements, but it reacts strongly to repeated messages. This means you have the power to choose the messages you send. Every day you are programming your mind through small statements. These can become the foundation of confidence or the root of insecurity. Remember that you are the one who is with you the most. Your inner voice will accompany you throughout your life. If that voice is always critical, life will become burdensome. But if that voice knows how to encourage and guide, you will have a lasting source of strength from within. Start with small things. Instead of saying I can't do it, say I haven't done it yet. I can learn. Instead of saying I'm terrible, say I'm in the process of improving. Small changes in language can create big changes in perception. Finally, recognize that words spoken to yourself are not harmless. They can build or destroy. When you choose to speak to yourself with respect and trust, you are cultivating a strong mental foundation. And from that foundation, you can face challenges with more confidence and peace each day. Successful people aren't those who never doubt themselves. In fact, almost everyone on their journey to achieving big goals has experienced moments of questioning whether they're good enough, strong enough, or persistent enough. The difference isn't in whether or not they doubt themselves, but in how they confront that doubt. They simply don't let doubt control their lives. Self-doubt is a natural reaction when we step outside our comfort zone and trying something new. When facing a major challenge, the mind tries to protect us from risk. It whispers that we might not be ready, that we might fail. That voice isn't always wrong. Sometimes it reminds us to prepare better. But if we let it take control, we'll never dare to go further. Many people think that successful people are always absolutely confident. But in reality, they also used to worry before making important decisions. They also used to fear failure, fear being judged. The difference is that they don't identify themselves with their fears. They understand that doubt is just a temporary emotional state, not human nature. When doubt arises, successful people often choose to act rather than be paralyzed. They may feel imperfect, but they still begin. They understand that clarity usually comes after action, not before. If they waited until they were completely confident to start, they would probably wait a very long time. Doubt can be a motivator if used correctly. Instead of saying I can't do it, they might ask themselves what they need to prepare to do better. Instead of viewing doubt as evidence of incompetence, they see it as a signal to learn. This interpretation helps them maintain control. The reality is that the bigger the goal, the more likely doubt is to arise. When you want to change careers, start a business, or pursue a personal dream, you're stepping into unfamiliar territory. The brain prefers safety and familiarity, so it reacts by generating anxiety. But if you understand this mechanism, you won't be so afraid of your inner voice. Successful people often build a habit of taking action, even when they're not completely ready. They break down big goals into smaller steps. Each completed step strengthens their confidence. With consistent action, the evidence of their ability grows, and the voice of doubt gradually weakens. Another important point is that they don't let a single failure define their entire self-worth. When they make mistakes, they analyze them to learn from them instead of dwelling on self-blame. They separate the behavior from the person. They might say, I didn't do well at this, but that doesn't mean they are incompetent. This separation helps them avoid getting caught in a spiral of self-doubt. Doubt often comes with the fear of being judged. Successful people understand that it's impossible to please everyone. If they let the fear of criticism control them, they won't dare to try new things. Therefore, they accept that judgment is part of the process. They focus on the value they want to create, instead of seeking absolute approval. In addition, they build a supportive environment. Those around them can remind them of their abilities when they temporarily forget them. No one is strong alone in all circumstances. Timely support helps them avoid being overwhelmed by doubt. The important thing is that they understand that doubt isn't an enemy to be completely eliminated. It's a part of being human. When they accept its existence, they no longer have to fight so hard with themselves. They might say, I'm doubting, but I'll still move forward. This acceptance creates calmness. Success isn't the absence of worry. It's the ability to persevere despite worry. It's getting back up after a fall. It's choosing to act instead of waiting for the perfect moment. From the outside, you only see the result. But inside, it's a whole process of overcoming waves of doubt. If you're doubting yourself, it doesn't mean you're incapable. It just shows you're facing something significant. Instead of blaming yourself for that feeling, ask yourself what small steps you can take today. Every small action will create a shift. You can also record your accomplishments, however small. When doubt arises, look back at that list. It's proof that you've overcome difficulties. The brain easily forgets successes and focuses on shortcomings. Recalling achievements helps balance your perspective. Successful people don't wait for the voice of doubt to disappear completely. They learn to live with it. They understand that growth often comes with insecurity, but it is by overcoming that insecurity that they expand their horizons. Everyone has moments in life when they must choose between safety and growth. Doubt often pulls us toward safety. But if we want to go far, we need to learn not to let it take the lead. We can listen, but the final decision must be based on long-term values and goals. When you look at the people you admire, remember that they too once had sleepless nights filled with anxiety. They too once wondered if they were on the right track. The difference is that they didn't let those questions stop them. They kept adjusting, learning, and moving forward. So if you feel doubtful today, don't see it as a sign of failure. See it as part of the journey. The important thing isn't to eliminate doubt entirely, but not to give it the power to decide. When you choose to act despite your anxieties, you are building resilience step by step. And that resilience is the true foundation of lasting success. There's a story about a student who failed an important exam multiple times. Each time he received a disappointing result, he felt increasingly frustrated. Initially, it was sadness, then shame, and gradually, it turned into a belief that he was useless. He began to wonder why others could succeed while he couldn't. He watched his friends move forward, while he seemed to stand still. After failing the second time, he still had hope. Thought maybe he hadn't studied enough. But by the third and fourth attempts, his doubts began to grow. He doubted not only his study methods, but also his own abilities. Negative thoughts like, maybe I'm not smart enough, or maybe I'm not suited for this path, kept repeating in his head, gradually leading him to believe that he was truly incompetent. That mindset affected his learning style. Every time he opened a book, he already felt a sense of failure. When he encountered a difficult problem, he quickly gave up, thinking that no matter how hard he tried, he wouldn't understand it. This lack of confidence reduced his ability to concentrate. He studied for many hours, but the results were not good. This, in turn, reinforced his negative belief that he was useless. One day, after talking to an older student, he gained a different perspective. The older student didn't say he was incompetent, nor did he advise him to give up. Instead, he asked if he had specifically analyzed his weaknesses. He realized that all this time he had only focused on his failures without truly dissecting the root causes. He began reviewing each section of the exam. He discovered he often lost points on questions requiring analytical skills and time management. Instead of saying I'm useless, he tried saying I need to improve my analytical skills and time management. This small change in wording made a big difference in his mindset. He no longer viewed the problem as a judgment on his human values, but as a list of skills to be honed. He created a specific study plan. Each week he focused on one type of problem. Each day he dedicated time to practicing timed problems to improve his speed. When he made mistakes, he no longer blamed himself for too long, but noted the error and looked for ways to correct it. The initial progress was small. Weeks he only improved by a few points on practice tests. But this time, instead of seeing it as insufficient, he saw it as a sign he was on the right track. Each small improvement became proof that he wasn't as useless as he once thought. Gradually, his confidence began to return, not because he was certain he would pass, but because he felt he was in control of the process. He understood clearly what he needed to do each day. The feeling of uncertainty and self-doubt was replaced by a sense of initiative. As his mindset stabilized, his academic performance also improved. When the next exam came around, he was still nervous. But this time, the nervousness wasn't accompanied by the belief that he would fail. He entered the exam room feeling well prepared. When faced with difficult questions, he didn't panic like before. He analyzed each step, applying what he had practiced. The final results showed that he scored significantly higher than in previous attempts. The important thing wasn't just the score, but the inner transformation. He understood that previous failures weren't proof of uselessness, but rather a sign that his approach wasn't right. By changing his perspective, he released a lot of energy that had been used to self-blame. This story illustrates the power of mindset. When we associate failure with our worth, we easily fall into a rut. But when we detach failure from ourselves and view it as feedback, we open up opportunities for improvement. A weak skill doesn't mean a person is weak. Failing an exam doesn't define the entire future. Many young people fall into a state of worthlessness simply because of a few disappointing results. They forget that skills can be honed. The brain has the capacity to learn and adapt. Progress rarely happens in a single leap. It's usually a series of small improvements that accumulate over time. The student in the story didn't become outstanding overnight. He changed by patiently taking small steps. Each day he got a little better. Each mistake was corrected a little. That perseverance gradually built a solid foundation. When that foundation is strong enough, good results are a natural consequence. More importantly, he learned to be kind to himself. When he made mistakes, he no longer said, "I'm terrible," he said, "I need to practice this more." This change in his inner voice helped him maintain long-term motivation. His confidence no longer relied on immediate results, but on the process of effort. This story reminds us that everyone can go through a period of feeling inadequate. But that feeling isn't an absolute truth. It's just a reaction to difficulty. If we dwell on that feeling, we'll miss opportunities for growth. But if we dare to look our weaknesses in the eye and improve little by little, we can gradually change the situation. Everyone faces tests in life, not just written exams. It could be a project, a job, a personal goal. When we don't achieve the desired results, it's easy to conclude we're not good enough. But like that student, what we might need is simply a different approach, a clearer plan, and patience with ourselves. Confidence isn't about believing you're perfect. It's about believing you can learn and improve. When we shift our focus from results to the process, we regain control. By doing a little better each day, we're building the foundation for future success. The student, who once thought himself useless, finally realized that the only truly dangerous thing wasn't failing an exam, but giving up because of negative stereotypes. When he changed his perspective and focused on each small skill, his life changed. And the confidence he regained not only helped him pass the exam, but also became his foundation for future challenges. Instead of asking where you're weak, ask what you can improve. These two seemingly similar questions lead to two completely different paths. The first question focuses on shortcomings and easily leads to negative self-labeling. The second question opens up possibilities for change and empowers you to take initiative. When we ask ourselves where we are lacking, our minds often tend to exaggerate our weaknesses. We might list a series of shortcomings and quickly conclude that we are not good enough. This way of thinking easily leads to feelings of being overwhelmed and demotivated, because once we believe we are lacking, we are less likely to believe we can improve. Conversely, when we ask ourselves what we can improve, we are viewing the problem from a growth perspective. We acknowledge that we are not perfect right now, but that doesn't mean we are powerless. This question shifts the focus from judgment to action. It helps us seek solutions instead of wallowing in self-blame. The difference lies in the language and attitude. The word poor carries a fixed connotation, as if it were an innate trait that is difficult to change. Meanwhile, the word improvement suggests a process, the ability to learn and progress. When we use the language of process, we create the conditions for change to occur. For example, when someone isn't performing well at work, if they tell themselves they're incompetent, they might feel ashamed and withdraw. But if they ask themselves which skills they can improve to do better, they'll start looking for courses, seeking advice, or practicing more. Positive action begins with the right question. The human mind is often strongly influenced by how we interpret events. The same failure might be seen by one person as proof of incompetence, while another sees it as a lesson. The latter doesn't deny the difficulty, but they don't let it define their self-worth. They focus on what can be done next. Asking questions about improvement also helps us break down the problem. Instead of thinking we're bad at everything, we identify specifically which skills are weak. It could be time management, communication skills, or the ability to focus. When the problem is specific, it becomes easier to address. We can then build a step-by-step plan. More importantly, this way of asking questions helps maintain self-esteem. We don't deny our mistakes, but we don't devalue ourselves. We acknowledge that we are in a learning process. Everyone starts at a certain level and gradually progresses. No one is born perfect. Many people are afraid to acknowledge their weaknesses for fear of feeling like a failure. But when approached with a mindset of self-improvement, looking at weaknesses becomes an act of courage. We don't run away, nor do we punish ourselves. We look straight at them and ask ourselves what we can do better. This attitude is what creates growth. The way we ask positive questions also affects our emotions. When we tell ourselves we're inadequate, the dominant emotion is usually sadness or disappointment. But when we think about improvement, the emotion shifts to hope and proactiveness. We see that we have choices, that we have the ability to change. This feeling of control helps reduce stress. In academic or work environments, people with a growth mindset tend to progress further. They aren't afraid to receive feedback because they see it as an opportunity for self-improvement. They don't view suggestions as criticism, but rather as information for adjustment. As a result, they continuously improve, while others might stop due to wounded pride. Changing the way we ask questions also helps us build healthy, reflective habits. After each experience, instead of blaming ourselves, we can ask ourselves 3 things. What did we do well? What can we improve? What is the next step? These 3 simple questions help us maintain a balance between recognition and growth. This doesn't mean we should shirk responsibility. If we make mistakes, we still need to take responsibility and correct them. But instead of dwelling on guilt, we move toward concrete action. Responsibility coupled with improvement will create real change. Another benefit of this approach is that it helps us be patient with ourselves. Improvement is a long-term process. Some skills take months, even years, to master. If we expect perfection immediately, we will easily become discouraged. But when we understand that each small step is valuable, we will be more persistent. Instead of asking ourselves where we're lacking, we can ask ourselves where we've improved compared to before. Looking back, we'll see that we've overcome many challenges. This recognition reinforces the belief that we have the ability to grow. From there, improvement becomes a natural journey instead of a heavy burden. The way we ask questions also influences how we perceive others. When we become accustomed to a self-improving mindset, we become less judgmental of others. We understand that everyone is in a learning process. This understanding creates a positive environment where people encourage each other's progress instead of criticism. Life always has moments when we feel inadequate. But what matters isn't that feeling, but how we react. If we stop at labeling ourselves as poor, we limit our future. If we shift our focus to self-improvement, we open the door to growth. Each day, you can start with a simple question. What can I do better today than I did yesterday? This question is small, but powerful. It directs your attention toward action and progress. When repeated long enough, it becomes a habit of positive thinking. Ultimately, your value lies not in how good you are now, but in your willingness to learn and improve. When you choose to ask about your progress instead of your shortcomings, you are building a foundation for lasting confidence. And the small steps you take today will gradually create big changes in the future. Self-respect is not arrogance. These two concepts are often confused, but they are fundamentally different. Arrogance is when a person places themselves above others, belittling or devaluing them. Self-respect, on the other hand, is understanding one's own worth, valuing it, and not allowing negative thoughts to trample on it. Self-respect doesn't need to be ostentatious. It is quiet but steadfast. A person with self-respect doesn't need to prove their superiority. They don't live to compare themselves to others or to win. They know they have strengths and weaknesses, and that's perfectly normal. They accept imperfection, but don't see it as a reason to belittle themselves. When they make mistakes, they take responsibility and correct them, but they don't use those mistakes to conclude that they are worthless. Arrogance often stems from insecurity. When people lack self-confidence internally, they tend to put on a facade of pride to mask it. They might boast about their achievements, try to overpower others in arguments, or react aggressively when receiving feedback. Self-esteem, on the other hand, doesn't require excessive defensiveness. People with self-esteem are calm enough to listen to feedback because they don't see it as a threat to their self-worth. Understanding your own worth doesn't mean believing you're always right. It's the realization that whether you succeed or fail, you deserve respect. A person's value lies not only in achievements but also in honesty, effort, kindness, and the ability to learn. When you understand this, you're no longer overly dependent on external praise or criticism. Negative thoughts can subtly erode self-esteem if we don't recognize and address them. When we constantly tell ourselves we are inadequate, useless, and unworthy, those words gradually become ingrained beliefs. Once these beliefs are formed, we are more likely to accept unfair treatment. We may remain in an environment that disrespects us because we believe we have no better options. Conversely, people with self-respect set healthy boundaries. They know how to say no to things that harm their dignity. They don't need to make a fuss or be overly aggressive. They simply don't accept being disrespected. Those boundaries stem from a clear understanding of their intrinsic value. Self-respect also helps us avoid being constantly caught up in comparisons. When we understand our own worth, we don't need to be better than others to feel fulfilled. We can celebrate the successes of others without feeling insignificant. We know that everyone's journey is different, and that difference doesn't diminish anyone's value. An important manifestation of self-esteem is the ability to speak to oneself with respect. When faced with failure, instead of self-blame, we can tell ourselves that we are in a learning process. When we haven't achieved our goals, we don't label ourselves as incompetent. How we treat ourselves reflects our inner level of self-esteem. Self-respect is also related to taking responsibility for one's own life. People with self-respect don't blame circumstances forever, but they don't overreact either. They acknowledge reality and seek ways to improve. They believe they have the ability to influence the future, even if they can't control everything. In relationships, self-esteem helps us build mutual respect. We don't depend entirely on the other person's validation to feel valued. This helps create a more balanced relationship. We love and stay together not because we fear loneliness, but because we truly cherish the other person. Many people fear that if they think too highly of themselves, they will become arrogant. But in reality, when self-esteem is strong, there is less need to show off. We don't need to exaggerate our achievements or belittle others to feel important. Confidence comes from within, allowing us to be humble naturally. Self-esteem isn't a fleeting feeling. It's built through small choices each day. Choosing to speak to yourself with respect. Choosing to rise after mistakes instead of dwelling on them. Choosing to leave environments that hurt you. These choices accumulate to form a solid foundation. There are times when life challenges our self-esteem. When we are rejected, criticized, or fail, it's easy to doubt our worth. But it is in those moments that self-esteem becomes most important. It reminds us that one outcome doesn't define who we are. It helps us maintain balance amidst difficulties. Cultivating self-esteem also requires honesty. We cannot pretend to believe in our worth if we are full of insecurity inside. We need to take the time to understand our strengths, weaknesses, dreams, and limitations. When we understand ourselves clearly, we will be less swayed by external judgments. One practical way to strengthen self-esteem is to acknowledge your own efforts. It's not just big achievements that deserve appreciation. Small steps, perseverance, the courage to try new things, all have value. When we recognize these things, we build positive self-belief. Self-respect also helps us forgive ourselves. Everyone makes mistakes sometimes. If we keep punishing ourselves, we'll be stuck in the past. But when we understand that we still have value despite our mistakes, we allow ourselves to learn and move forward. This forgiveness doesn't weaken us, but makes us stronger. Ultimately, self-respect is a balance between humility and confidence. We don't exaggerate our own worth, but neither do we diminish it. We know what we have and what we lack. We don't let negative thoughts overshadow our inner value, but we also don't deny the need for improvement. When you understand your own worth, you will walk with serenity. You don't need to prove anything to the world. You just need to live true to your principles and goals. And when negative thoughts arise, you will realize that they are just fleeting clouds. It's not strong enough to obscure the unwavering self-respect within you. Everyone has their own strengths. No one is born exactly alike, and no one is completely worthless. Within each person exists a special ability, which may be obvious or hidden. The question isn't whether we possess these strengths, but whether we have the patience to discover and develop them. Many people prematurely conclude that they lack outstanding talent. They look at others and see their brilliant achievements, then look back at themselves with a feeling of inadequacy. But they forget that strengths don't always manifest themselves immediately. Some abilities require time, experience, and even failures to gradually develop. Strengths don't necessarily have to be something grand. Some people are good communicators. Others are patient listeners. Some are good analysts. Others are creative. Some can handle pressure. Others have keen intuition. These qualities are sometimes overlooked because they aren't as flashy. But it is precisely these that form the solid foundation for success. The biggest challenge isn't a lack of strengths, but a lack of patience. We live in an age where we crave quick results. If we try something a few times and don't get the hang of it, we easily give up. We assume we're not suited for it, that we lack the talent. But in reality, most skills require time and practice. When a child learns to walk, they fall many times. But no one concludes that the child is incapable of walking. The same goes for adults. When learning a new skill, it's normal to stumble. Patience, those first wobbly steps will gradually become steady. Discovering your strengths requires experimentation. If you stay within your comfort zone, you won't know what you're capable of. Sometimes you need to dare to try new things, even if you're not sure about the outcome. Through that process, you gradually realize what excites you and what tires you out. A key indicator of strength is a feeling of enthusiasm when doing something. When you're so engrossed in something that you lose track of time, it might be the right field for you. Natural enthusiasm is a reliable indicator. However, enthusiasm alone isn't enough. Consistent practice is needed to transform potential into actual competence. Patience isn't just about waiting. It's about continuing to act even when the outcome isn't clear. There are times when you feel like you're not making progress. But progress sometimes happens quietly. Small efforts accumulated over time can create a leap forward. Many people give up before they even reach a crucial point. They fail to see how close they are. If they had persevered a little longer, they might have discovered their true potential. The difference between successful people and those who give up often lies simply in their level of patience. Strengths can also change over time. There are abilities we don't realize when we're young, but which develop strongly as we mature. Life experiences, challenges, and obstacles help us understand ourselves better. So, don't label yourself too quickly. Comparing ourselves to others often leads to impatience. Seeing others progress faster can easily discourage us. But everyone develops at a different pace. Some show talent early, others blossom later. What matters is that we continue on our own journey. A crucial element in developing strengths is environment.
Oh, yeah.
In an encouraging and supportive environment, we have the opportunity to experiment and make mistakes without fear of judgment. Conversely, a negative environment can lead to self-doubt. Therefore, choosing the right environment is also part of the discovery process. Self-awareness is key. Take time to observe yourself. What do you often receive compliments for? What do you feel confident doing? What challenges do you overcome more easily than others? These questions help you identify your hidden strengths. Once you've identified your strengths, the next step is to invest in them. This might include learning more, finding a mentor, or practicing regularly. Strengths, if not nurtured, will gradually fade. Conversely, when properly cared for, they will grow stronger. Patience also helps us accept periods of slowdown. Results aren't always immediately apparent. There are times when we need to rest, adjust, or start over. Flexibility and patience prevents burnout. Another important thing is not to let failure shake your belief in your strengths. Failure doesn't mean you're incapable. It can indicate that you need to change your approach. When you view failure as feedback, you learn more. Strengths are not separate from weaknesses. Sometimes the difficulties we face actually help us develop special abilities. A once shy person can become someone who understands others' emotions. A person who has experienced failure can become more resilient. The journey of self-discovery is a long one. It requires honesty and courage. We need to dare to admit what we are not good at, but also dare to believe in what we can become good at. This balance helps us move forward without being overly arrogant or overly self-deprecating. Being patient with yourself is also a manifestation of self-respect. When you believe you have value, you give yourself time to grow. You don't rush to conclude that you're useless just because of a few setbacks. Each day is an opportunity to move closer to a better version of yourself. Even small steps, if taken consistently, will show a difference over time. Strengths are not just innate gifts, but also the result of perseverance. Finally, remember that you don't need to be good at everything. Just finding and developing a few strengths that suit you will give you a foundation for building a meaningful life.
Oh.
Everyone has their own light. The question is whether you have the patience to illuminate it and keep it shining brightly. When you control negative thoughts, you not only change your emotions, but also change the direction of your life. Thoughts are the starting point of all actions. Emotions are formed from how we interpret events. Actions are guided by emotions. And it is these repeated actions that create results, thereby shaping the future. Therefore, when you learn to master your thoughts, you are touching the root of change. Negative thinking arises naturally. The human brain tends to focus more on risks and failures in order to protect itself. When faced with difficulties, the mind easily exaggerates risks and minimizes opportunities. One criticism can make us forget 10 compliments. One failure can make us doubt our entire capabilities. If not recognized, these thoughts will silently lead our emotions in a pessimistic direction. When we believe we're not good enough, we feel discouraged. When we think all our efforts are futile, we lose motivation. Negative emotions lead to procrastination, avoidance, and fear. Gradually, we miss opportunities because we don't dare to try. We retreat into our comfort zone. Life begins to narrow instead of expand. Conversely, when you control negative thinking, you don't deny the difficulties, but you choose a different perspective. Instead of thinking that failure proves you're incompetent, you see it as feedback for adjustment. Instead of thinking that rejection is the end, you see it as a filtering process. It is this shift in perspective that creates a different emotional impact. Positive emotions don't always mean being happy. It's the belief that you can learn and improve. When you maintain that belief, you act differently. You keep trying, keep improving, keep finding ways. This persistent action creates new results. And those new results reinforce your positive belief. A cycle of growth begins to form. Mind control isn't about suppressing all negative thoughts. That's almost impossible. It's about recognizing them when they arise and not letting them take control. You might ask yourself, is this thought based on truth? Does it help me move forward? If the answer is no, you can choose a more rational way of thinking. For example, when you make a mistake at work, your automatic thought might be that you're terrible. But if you calmly analyze the situation, you might realize that the mistake stemmed from a lack of experience or information. When you change your perspective, the emotion shifts from self-blame to a desire for improvement. Your direction also changes from giving up to learning. Persistent negative thinking can become a limiting belief. If you constantly tell yourself that you're incapable of communicating, you'll avoid situations that require communication. This avoidance prevents the skill from being honed. Poor results reinforce the initial belief, but when you decide to challenge that belief, things can be different. Changing the direction of your life doesn't necessarily have to be major turning points. Sometimes it's just deciding to take a course, send an email, submit an application, or start a new habit. These small decisions are often hampered by negative thinking. When you overcome that barrier, you open up new paths. Controlling your thoughts also helps you build healthier relationships. When you're not controlled by the fear of being judged, you communicate more openly. But when you don't feel inferior, you set clear boundaries. Relationships become more balanced and respectful. This directly impacts your quality of life. Another important aspect is mental health. Constant negative thinking increases stress. Prolonged stress affects sleep, energy, and concentration. By learning to regulate your thinking, you reduce unnecessary pressure. A calmer mind helps you make more informed decisions. To control your thoughts, you need to cultivate awareness. Observe what goes through your mind when faced with a difficult situation. Write down the thoughts that arise. When you look at them on paper, you can easily identify exaggerations or unfounded thoughts. From there, you can replace them with more balanced thinking. Practicing gratitude is also a helpful approach. When you actively focus on positive things, your brain gradually adjusts its way of concentrating. This doesn't negate problems, but helps you see opportunities alongside challenges. Positive emotions are nurtured by small, everyday things. Controlling your thoughts also involves choosing your information environment. If you are constantly exposed to negative, comparative, or critical content, pessimistic thinking is easily reinforced. By selectively choosing positive and inspiring information, you create conditions for your mind to develop in a healthy direction. Most importantly, be patient with yourself. Changing your way of thinking is a process. There will be times when you fall back into old habits, but each time you recognize this and adjust, you are making progress. This progress may be slow, but it is sustainable. The direction of life is not determined by a single thought, but by the repeated thoughts each day. When you choose to believe you can learn, you will seek opportunities to learn. When you believe you deserve good things, you will dare to seize them. That belief leads you to other choices, and those choices create new paths. Imagine two people facing a failure. One believes it's proof of incompetence, the other believes it's a lesson. A year later, their lives might be very different. Not because their circumstances are different, but because their ways of thinking are different. Ultimately, controlling negative thoughts not only helps you feel better in the present, but it also helps you act differently. It makes you more persistent, courageous, and flexible. When actions change, results change. When results change, the direction of your life changes. You can't control every event that happens. You can control how you react. Within that control lies immense power. When you master your thoughts, you master your choices. When you master your choices, you are gradually shaping your future in a more positive and meaningful way. Life always presents moments that make us doubt ourselves. A few failures, a few criticisms, sometimes that are enough to shake the confidence we've worked so hard to build. But the truth is, your value isn't determined by a single result or a fleeting comment. It's formed from effort, from how you rise after falling, and from your relentless journey forward. Failure isn't a verdict of incompetence. It's simply a natural part of the growth process. Anyone who has achieved something meaningful has experienced setbacks. The difference lies in how they perceive them. They don't let a difficult moment define them entirely. They see it as a lesson, as data to adjust, as a stepping stone for the next attempt. Criticism is similar. Not every comment reflects your true worth. Some feedback helps you improve, but others stem from prejudice or a narrow perspective. If you accept everything without filtering, a negative mindset will have the opportunity to exaggerate and distort the truth. Gradually, you may begin to believe things that aren't true about yourself. Don't let negative thoughts guide your life. They may whisper that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough. But remember, thoughts are just thoughts. They're not absolute truths. You have the right to question them. You have the right to choose a different, fairer, and more positive perspective. Your value doesn't lie in what you haven't achieved yet, but in the potential you're still nurturing. Every day you try a little harder, learn something new, overcome another small fear, and you're proving that you have the ability to grow. And that ability to grow is the most valuable thing of all. You deserve better than what your negative mind is telling you. You deserve respect, opportunities, and trust, first and foremost for yourself. When you believe in your worth, you will act differently. You will dare to try, dare to step out of your comfort zone, and dare to pursue bigger goals. So don't let a few failures or criticisms bring you down. Give yourself a chance to grow and shine in your own way. If you believe that positive thinking can change lives, please share this video and leave your comments. Who knows, your thoughts today might be someone's motivation tomorrow.